the last day of our 5-day workshop. And during the days we went more or less through a part, because you can talk about it for years. There's so many details in birth and being born and giving birth. And we have been through the process of birth in big strokes, and here and there we took out details we thought were important. So the first day I talked a little bit about fertilization, basically. And the second day Georgi talked about incarnation and the whole movement of incarnation, which is a lifelong process. As human beings, we are not yet totally incarnated. It's a process to get more and more and more deeper connected with the physical reality. And part of what we do in our lives is learn about how to deal with physical reality, which is quite a challenge. And what I mean with physical reality is pure the heaviness of the physical body. The heaviness is being part of a physical realm with its instincts, with the emotions which are overflowing in a way. And slowly getting used to this, being able to contain it, to create things in the physical world.
And this is what you mean to fully incarnate?
Yeah. To really be in the physical, in the depth, to exist in the physical.
In opposite to things that just throw to
the opposite is really in our minds?
Not containing?
The problem is that we are in our minds. And we are so much in our minds that we forget so often, or are in a struggle with especially the pelvic, especially our instincts, our emotions. And then there is basically one sucker. This is the heart. The heart loses in this. So when we are in a state of survival, which most of us are, then we don't stand on the ground. Our basis becomes very much the solar plexus and the first depression point. So most of our actions, most of our thoughts are based on fear. We're very much led by fear, by how unsafe the world is. It's very difficult to sink totally into the physical and to feel totally relaxed with physical life, with our social environment. And this is not something only for the individual, but this is humanity kind of struggling with this. So incarnation is something which takes place all our lives, basically, to incarnate more deeply, to feel safe in our self-created physical environment, and in the physical environment which is created basically or is part of the universe. At the same time, what came forward during our talks is that a baby is totally in unity with the physical environment. And that brings forward, what is the difference between us and a baby? So how come that the baby can be so much in unity and we lose the feeling of unity? Move in deep feelings of loneliness, separation, fear of separation, fear of not belonging, while at the same time it's a given that inside us is the experience and the possibility to experience from moment to moment to belong, to be in unity. When we are in unity, there is not a question about belonging. We are just there. We are connected. We are connected with the depth of ourselves, and we are connected with the world around ourselves. So we lose this connection. So part of losing this connection is, I think, connected through how we learn. And the whole process of learning starts with kind of bringing something out and see how the world is reacting on this. This is how we learn to speak. And if the world is understanding us, it gives us a feeling of success. And if the world around us is not understanding us, look to little children, we get frustrated. We feel helpless. So, in our daily lives, if you see the amount of effort which is also there in being seen, in being understood, and we go so far in this, in wanting to be seen, wanting to be understood, wanting to belong in this learning process, that we even become disloyal towards ourselves. A lot of our actions are motivated by being seen, being understood. And this is not motivated by a learning process anymore, but where the learning process was frustrated, where we traumatized, where we have a very deep feeling that something is not right with us. Something is not good. We don't belong. So we have to adjust to belong. So, when we move back to the whole process of birth, then the first big separation, which is there, is after birth. Before that, we are very much moving unconditionally in union with the mother. So Georgi described yesterday, how the baby comes out, what's happening with the mother. And I promised to tell a little bit about, to describe what's happening energetically, which is basically awesome.
It's basically
awesome. So, when the head is standing, you have this moment that the head is standing.
Standing?
You see the head.
Oh, crowning?
Crowning,
okay.
Yes. When in the period when the baby is crowning, just before the head comes out, and then there is a next pause as well. And this is the pause where the baby has to make a little turn to get out. So when the baby is crowning, what you often see is that there is a bright light moving to the mother downwards. And this bright light which is moving through the mother downwards is basically the ID of the baby. The ID of the baby. And then what's happening is that from the ID, the whole quality layer of the aura is opening up. And basically the baby is born in its own qualities. So if you're sensitive to this, with this moment that the baby comes out and is born in its own qualities, there is a strong interaction between the baby and the qualities. They become very visible. So there's a lot of midwives who kind of are able to see what kind of child it becomes because of that, and they give some information about it. Oh, this child is typically a teacher, or this child will become probably a scientist, or this child is very social, or this child is very artistic or creative. There is this moment that this is very, 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 very clear.
The doctors aren't seeing that.
Some doctors are able to see this as well. And when you look to the atmosphere which is around birth, and the atmosphere is so much like the atmosphere around death, this is kind of holy atmosphere. And what you see in birth is the unfolding of the qualities. And in death you see the movement of the quality layer of the aura moving to another dimension through the idea. It's opposite of each other. But it's very much the same movement.
And the child towards his quality and aura is aware of it in any way?
There's an absolutely at that moment a blend between the child and its quality. It's like the inner light and the outer light are blending completely at that moment. But this gives also this holy atmosphere around birth. It has a very special, truthful, holy atmosphere. That's why people love to work in this area, because it is a beautiful energy, a beautiful atmosphere. So then the child gets born, it comes out, and it's still attached through the umbilical cord with the mother. That means, half of the child, and this sounds crazy because there is no nerve system in the afterbirth, but it is part of the tissue, the whole afterbirth is part of the tissue of the child. So half of the child is inside the mother and half of the child is outside the mother, to say it like this. The umbilical cord, the blood of the baby is running through the umbilical cord, is still connected with the mother. The mother is still feeding the child. Most of the time. Sometimes there's something wrong, so this doesn't work anymore. But most of the time, the mother is still for some time feeding the child. When you look to that, there is an incredible beauty in that. It's a very soft movement, basically. The child is still connected with the mother in the first steps in the world outside. And this is where the child physically wakes up. Only half of the heart of the child is working. That means that the blood which is moving through the lungs back to the heart, from the heart to the lungs to the heart, this part of the heart is not really working.
From lungs to heart?
No, it's not. The child is not breathing. So the small circulation is not working. It's not active. It's only after the child gets born that the hole which is in the heart closes and small circulation becomes active and the whole heart becomes active. This is exactly also the same time that the heart chakra of the child opens completely. The heart chakra is not really connected with the physical heart of the child, but there is a synchronicity in the heart, the first breath, the opening of the lungs and the opening of the heart chakra. The umbilical cord basically is filled with blood of the child. And when a child is born, you can make several choices. There are schools who say, if you let the blood in the umbilical cord draw totally towards the child, the whole movement for the child kind of, to wake up in the physical body is more gradual, is more friendly, is more soft. It's less shocking. It's like it slowly draws back from the mother, kind of comes into its own vitality, because before that the child is living on the vitality of the mother. So it's better to kind of, to wait till the umbilical cord is emptied out. When it's emptied out, it becomes flat. It sucks itself flat and vacuum, and then you can cut it. Or you can cut it as quickly as possible, because the amount of blood that the child is drawn towards it is extra blood. It's blood. The physical in itself, as it is in the baby, doesn't need. So this extra blood needs to be broken down. This is broken down in the liver. And sometimes the liver is slow in starting. And that means that the child becomes yellow. This is not a big problem. But often when a child becomes yellow, it has to go to the hospital, has to go under blue light, which is stimulating the skin and stimulating the liver to start working. You can also have a blue light at home. Or you can put the child in sunlight. Sunlight also is containing this blue light. But to put a newborn baby in straight sunlight is also a lot, but at least outside. And we have the tendency to keep our children inside to protect them in the dark. While light is basically very good for children. If you look in Russia and in Finland, the northern countries, the sun is not that strong, but even in Siberia, outside the houses, what you see is little glass boxes. And when it's a sunny day, they lay their newborn babies inside these boxes, like little greenhouses for babies, to catch sunlight. You seen them? Yeah. So the sunlight is helping, also stimulating the liver, it's stimulating everything. It's helping the baby to kind of move into prana, to take prana. Also this is not working in the womb. So there's a whole energetic system, and sunlight is really good for us, basically as babies. And again, this is not cultural, and especially not cultural in Israel. I remember that with Dodo, she was very young, and we were walking outside already with her in a few days old, and some old ladies came to us and said, how old is the baby? 5 days. Why are you bringing her outside?
God, it's dirty. The dirt of the air.
No, you have to protect here.
Yeah, but you can have, something which shakes the baby and still be in the light, and the dirt of the air is nothing compared to the dirt inside the houses. Whatever you measure inside the house is more dirt. Even if you keep it very clean. The air from outside is coming in, but the air is more stagnant, so there is more dust, I think. You told me about this book, The War Against Dust. Some of you told me about this book. This lady who has a war against dust and then feels so betrayed because all the dust is gathering in the vacuum cleaner.
Ah!
Yes?
Great book. Oh, you should have to read it. It's a great book. Poor lady.
So again, there's a lot of reasons to keep it inside, and there's a lot of reasons to go outside. This is cultural, and I don't want to start a discussion about what's better and not better. It's just different choices you make. So when the umbilical cord is cut in whatever moment, basically the baby is totally loose from the mother. And Georgie told a little bit yesterday about that the baby then, you know, after it starts to breathe, and sometimes before that already, but after it starts to breathe for sure, the baby starts kind of to look around, to search. And basically searching for the face of the mother. This is the first connection outside with the energy of the mother. The baby knows so well from the inside, and to reconnect from the outside. This is quite an important moment. If there is a connection and the baby is able to look at the mother and the mother looks back, this gives us the feeling, if everything is working right, and it's not always like this, but it gives us a feeling of being welcome, of safety. That's her. And she's happy. You can feel the happiness. This gives a feeling of being welcome, of safety. Very basic. This is a very basic, important moment. The baby comes out, and that the baby got the feeling that everybody is happy that she's there, or he is there, that there is a connection. If this doesn't work, already from the start, what you see, there is a confusion. And sometimes there's a reflex in a baby that already from this moment on, there is a feeling that you have to do it more alone. There is not really a connection, there is not really a safety, not really a welcome. This can be repaired later on, but it's the first, is a kind of a drawback. When you're in the hospital and you see babies, you see a difference where it goes very well and where it doesn't work so well. The babies are more drawn inside. It's subtle, but it's for surely there. Generally, there's always examples. How do you say it? Yeah, babies who are moving differently. So it is a very important and holy moment. And I think also for the mother, to look the baby in the eyes after it is born is a very special moment. Also what you see mothers do, most of the mothers, conscious, unconscious, is that they reach out to the baby when they're laying on their belly, when there is a chance for the baby to lay on the belly, because sometimes it's taken immediately. Is that the mother kind of checks the baby, moves her hand down and goes to the toes or the fingers, and you see them counting the fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Did you do that, Georgie?
That everything is okay.
Yes, I think so. I didn't see it, I was not there.
7 times?
That's kind of an indication that everything is okay with the baby. The amount of fingers seems to be an indication for us that everything is okay. That the baby looks, that the baby breathes, and it's got 5 fingers. It's human.
Normal. Human.
It's normal. It's very instinctive, and it's very beautiful to see. And I can have very long stories about what's going wrong or what can go wrong in hospitals. No time between the mother and baby, no time for bonding. Sometimes grandmothers, mothers-in-law who take over the baby and really interfere with the bonding between the baby and the mother, which can be devastating for the mother and for the baby. The first bonding between the mother and the baby is the most important. It's more important as the bonding with anybody else. This is the basic safety. And in young children you see this, the basic safety is not Abba, is not Granny. The basic safety is Ima. They come to Ima. And I think it's very important to give space to that. Last little story. When my first child was born, they wanted to take away the child immediately. In the hospital, she was born in the hospital, the other children are born at home. And they want to take away the child immediately. They want to take it away to do some tests, to see if the nerve system is okay. And so the test is that they let the baby walk. Yeah, walk. They hold the baby, and if the baby has this reflex that it goes like this, walk. And in some hospitals they hang the baby on one hand on a rope shortly. They hold it still, but that's also a reflex. The baby can hold himself, herself is incredibly strong in the beginning, can hold himself if there is danger to the mother. All of this is there in reflexes. So they test a lot of these reflexes. There is a list of reflexes, and if you do it immediately, it gives an indication about the nerve system of the baby. If something is damaged in the reflexes, that's an indication that something is maybe damaged in the nerve system. If you do it later, and the baby is not able to do it, you also have an indication that something is damaged in the nerve system. And babies get a score according to how their reaction is. So this score is important. But if you do it later or earlier, it doesn't make so much difference. But the nurse insisted in taking the baby. I said, no way. And she said, it's not fair. I said, why is it not fair? If we wait longer, she gets probably a higher score.
So.
When you think about it, this is absolutely crazy. You know, there is a procedure, and the procedure has to be good so that you have, you know, an equal score for babies or whatever. Some babies are higher, some babies are lower. Who cares? So, this didn't happen. But still, there is sometimes in procedures a thinking in which there is so little time and so little space for the mother and the baby to be together. Nowadays there is a big change in that. It really is more deeply understood that this coming together of baby and mother, the time together is really, really, really important.
So I need to go back a little bit, because from another perspective, everything I hear being told is from a witnessing position, not the actual position of the mother and the baby. In my experience, and I don't want to prescribe that this is how it is, what happens when the mother first has the baby and looks, and the mother's searching also for this, to look in the eyes of the baby, and the baby looks back, is in that moment, it's the first time for the baby that it's witnessing and the other mother. It's the first direct connection that's really, certainly in nature when there's not doctors in between, maybe there's the same connection between the midwife and the whoever gets the baby before that, but this is quite a hot issue and with a lot of emotions involved in terms of it being the mother the first. Heads can roll over this. In my experience, this first moment of looking at the baby in the eyes is almost like a spiritual barometer. It's a spiritual barometer of how awake the mother can be, how much of this perception she can allow. The baby looks straight through her, And often it's the mother that fails. And I don't mean fails in a judgmental way, she is just not able to contain this look. It's like the pure look of consciousness. And so something is formed there, which is a whole process in the mother of awakening, being awake, and also in the child of how much it can be met, where to begin closing down, where perhaps it's not possible. With my first child, it was like a whole spiritual process of being in the now, just to try and meet him. For weeks, the first weeks, this was what was happening. I was constantly falling short, at the same time as growing like crazy, in being awake enough to meet him in his pure awakeness. When in that first look, it's not looking at little Gugu baby at all. Yes, the hands are moving, but this is a kind of totally natural reflex that happens to show the baby its form. Like it's been held like this. There's a safety in the baby being touched everywhere. You have this form. The feet, the arms, the legs, the bum, the head. It's kind of showing it where it's physically beginning and ending before even it's checking anything. It's a reflex that's happening by itself. Also, in this first glance, the one that you're looking at as a mother is timeless. In the sense that you can see and this gets lost during the first weeks of babyhood, they become increasingly babies. Mm-hmm. But in that first stage, you can be holding an old man.
An old man
look like
or an old lady, or a rabbi, or it's as if all the stages of the essence is already there. In that, there's no superiority or inferiority. Here's my little Gugu baby. This all comes in later. It's almost awesome, and for me at least, this feeling of incredible humility. It's really not a baby. In one sense, it's not a baby, it's a whole life. And it's a teacher. A lot of the way we see babies later on is really part of the forms that come with the stages of development. And they kind of grow into babyhood in those first weeks, in a way. So there's this profound meeting with the master, which happens to be about a third of a meter long, with your spiritual teacher. Of course, the baby is already learning very, very fast. Also from the other side, where the qualities are not seen, where it's immediately put into a form which doesn't fit, where the depth of connection from the heart and from the consciousness is already taking a kind of form. So there's a retraction also, so this belongs to the other side. All these qualities are not really absorbing. It's not allowed to expand. Here, this also has an effect. So after this kind of stage of hours, maybe a day of, in a way, a suffusion of pure consciousness and awareness in which the individuals concerned, they decide how much they can take of it. It's there anyway, this unconditional consciousness and awareness. There comes also attuned to the hormonal cycle. Of course, there's the afterbirth and the beginning of the after pains. Very, very strong pains of the womb contracting back to its stage. The separation also going back to the other woman stage of non-pregnant, is beginning with real pains, or sometimes with later babies it's worse than labour. These contractions of the womb very quickly moving back. And these pains are very much in tune with breastfeeding, which is when you're feeding the child.
Yeah.
So the child starts to suck, and this is a major part of the bonding and opening of the heart, and with the sucking, the pains become very, very strong of the womb contracting. So the hormones of releasing the milk are the same hormones which is telling the womb the baby's out, get back to size. So there's something very extreme going on in pleasure pain and bonding. And there is a physical life that needs to be defended with swords and sticks and whatever it takes. Physical, really for real thing happening as well. There's a baby, physical, and this is the instinctive level. Somewhere between this and that, and it's all happening in a period of 3 days, the mother also hormonally goes into a massive dip. It's as if there is this beautiful drug of love and awareness and peace and consciousness and all the freedom that's in that, and suddenly the supply is cut off. Bang!
Because the oxytocin is being put out while you're pregnant, and when she's out.
It's a medical phenomenon. I'm not sure what the chemistry of it is. I know the experience of it.
But once the infant is out.
It's basically the same thing when you go through a satori or to a very blissful experience. The mother is moving to the inner core of essence.
While she's pregnant.
No, in giving birth, in labor.
Okay, got it.
And then there is this bliss afterwards, but after the bliss is the laundry.
It's laundry, yeah.
And so that means that there is a kind of a point where it turns around and where a lot of things are coming up, doubts, insecurity, emotions, the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And this has a biochemical kind of reason, this has a hormonal reason, all of this, but it's basically very much the same movement. It doesn't matter so much what is causing it. It's kind of an integration more deeply into the physical as well. It starts to integrate the bliss, and then the other side is coming forward.
So what happens is that there's this incredible chemical drop, in which the pure physical movement of caring for the baby, the practical physical need remains. That's the stones through which you can step through this crash emotionally and in terms of feeling. There's one of the, in a way, merciful things of it is that the despair which is experienced is so unconditional, meaning so crazy, that the mind in most cases doesn't get attached to the stories of it. With the first child much more, there is a risk that it becomes a whole entanglement. I can't bond with my baby, and why aren't you picking him up, and I don't love my baby, I'm not allowed not to love my baby, and can begin a whole process which becomes chronic in postnatal depression. Not being able to connect, not this, not that. But in general, as a pure experience, it's just so unconditionally despairing that it's possible not to get hooked as well, especially when there's a support around which recognizes it, or if it's the second baby and the mother herself knows that this is something that you just allow. Completely stay in the physical. Take care. It's going to pass, which it does. On the way up out of this, there's something which is much more incarnated and integrated in the relationship to the baby. It's as if the physical basis of the pyramid is set down in that time, out of which a more incarnated, more grounded form of the pure consciousness and awareness and love and peace which was there before is setting the structure of parenting. in terms of education, I feel, I've seen, because I've been in many
Births.
not my own, but also sharing wards with other women. So I've seen many other women go through this 3-day period. 7 times. 6 actually. Second time I was at home. The support and the awareness and the recognition and the naming of what's happening is not there. And this is really a place where it would be of incredible service if it was. On the contrary, what tends to happen is the woman comes in, or the parents, the midwives come in, or the parents come in, and of course the woman could be despairing about that the baby's not sucking right, or she has no milk or something, and there starts a whole bullying thing. Okay, so it's got to be the bottle, it's got to be this, and this mother-in-law thinks this, and this mother-in-law thinks this. The mother's in the middle, in a despair, disconnected from everybody, and also her baby feeling like a total failure. And the human responsibility to hold her through this and to show that this is also will pass and there's nothing wrong with her is neglected in the conventional medical system.
Human system.
And familial systems.
Yeah, human system.
And what's happening around, and at this stage, which is also really not helpful, is that wherever there's really a bright light, there follows quite fast afterwards an urge to possess. Mailat. To possess and to control.
So in the sense of trying to possess and control the mother's
The
life,
baby,
all these
the baby. So father's stepping in now. It becomes important that the father is really standing behind the needs of the mother. Because his mother's behind him. And you can see what's happening in postnatal wards. And wherever the relationship isn't in harmony, there are rifts opening in many fronts already. The mothers, not being healed and enlightened, the grandmothers, are already in a kind of negotiation of identity, of family identity, to put it politely, over the head of the mother in her despair and the totally open, newly born child in its qualities. What I've seen some couples do is literally push the families out. In Israel it's very strong, this in-law thing. The parents, the grandparents.
inside.
Sometimes I've seen
Sisters,
brothers, cousins.
cousins.
So it's harder to push
Each one
out.
with these
Israel,
ones with
harder.
red shirts, these ones with green shirts.
Not allowed.
So in Israel, you don't, in Israel it's harder to push out.
Yeah.
Yes, but I've seen couples come to such a point of despair that the father literally gets what's happening from his pure instinctive naturalness, stands behind the mother, sees what's happening, takes all the blame for family, puts them out, we don't want to see you for another day. And then they just sit there in silence. He just stays with her until it passes. I've seen this happen, which was really right. I was in the other room behind the curtain in the other bed. But I've also seen other things where I've seen the mother closing down, becoming more and more insecure, and late at night, what about the feeding? What about the baby's crying all the time and I can't do this? And this whole... there is an advantage in mothers giving birth together, is that there is also an incredible support between experienced mothers and new mothers. And so there's this beautiful mechanism of integration into the physical in which the mother and baby continue to dance through the days after birth. Of which probably the most important aspect is the physical safety of the child, that it's getting fed, that it's protected, that it's warm enough. But this is really in connection to the mother. It's not in connection to the mother's mother who says, or the book that says, or the doctor that says, or anybody else that says. So the mother at this stage is really coming into her authority of naturalness, her natural authority. And you also see this challenged. There's a process going on between the pure strength and will and authority of mother's instinct, which isn't mother's instinct, this is it. This is the thing which is keeping the baby alive. And others who did it different. So that's the authority. So there's a kind of female authority conflict going on. Also, in which the doctor tends to come and lay down the law to make order.
What is, from the perspective of the baby, when you look to the eyes of the baby, if the mother doesn't get the space and the support to move by her own instincts, do it her way, and of course you can always ask advice, but this is really important, and kind of, collapses under outer authority, the baby feels betrayed. Something is going wrong. You lose the connection with the mother. This instinctive standing for the baby, in which the mother stands for her own feelings. The feelings of the mother are so familiar to the baby that this is like, such a clear anchor for the baby. If the mother betrays her own feelings in these first stages, it's like the baby loses part of the anchor. It doesn't understand it anymore. It gets confused. So it starts to also release the mother a little bit. It moves back towards its own anchor and starts to release the mother. This can have quite a deep influence, again, between the bonding between baby and mother and the safety of the baby. It's not only the mothers we need to protect, in this we also protect the children. A baby can really feel deeply betrayed when a mother is too much moved by authority of others and not moving with her own instinct. First there is confusion, you're crying and mother is not coming. So what's happening? And you feel as a baby that, mother is aware of it, but she's not coming. What's happening? Oh, it's Dr. Spock. But the baby doesn't know about Dr. Spock. It's good for you to cry, and mother is laying in bed like this. It's better for my baby if I don't pick it up. Let it cry. It's good for the lung. Like this.
Or worse with feeding, with food. Mother says you should only feed it every 4 hours or it's going to have colic and all of this. And so the baby is hungry and the mother wants to feed it and she doesn't.
Yeah. And the whole system, the whole body of the mother is working towards it. It's against her own feeling. So this is really, you have to understand that the baby and the mother are one. There can be a distance of half the world. Still, this oneness is there. The baby feels the mother feels the baby. When something is happening to your baby and the other side of the world, the mother knows it. This is something really quite holy and special. And it's crazy that the world is interfering with this. Because this is such a safety for both of them. And such a deep learning still. So, I give it back to you, but it's kind of just the emphasis on how important this bonding is. If it falls away, it's like the mother is the earth, is the grounding of the baby at that moment. It's the material underneath the feet of the baby. It's where it stands on. It's the anchor. It's the physical anchor of the baby. If you take this away, disrupt this, then it has an influence on the whole life of the baby as well, in how it's able to anchor. I say it very strict and very black and white, but we think so lightly about it from a level of ego and a level of position. It's how we interfere in this. It's really, really ugly, I think.
So in the middle way, it's really a process of development. It's really a process of inner growth, it's a spiritual process, as well as a biological and physical and life cycle process, which looks very much like other processes. It's integrating by degrees into the physical, the spiritual. Everybody's incarnating when a new baby is born. Also the other children in the house. A window opens in which they have an extra impetus to incarnate again, and you really see this with brothers and sisters. Also the grandparents, also anyone in the environment, also the
The neighbor.
Yes, it's everybody's baby in a way. Every baby is everybody's baby if they're open to this as a means. It's an incredible service, not only from the mother, but very, very much from the baby being born. It's a process. So if we have time, we can look at one angle where it's a process. One thing which we all recognize in a baby is innocence. And if we take the word innocence and just contemplate on innocence, it's interesting to notice what restrictions are coming forward already now from ourselves on innocence, or what we put into the word. The baby is...
Okay, go ahead.
It's okay.
The baby isn't innocent as a description, or as a quality, or as a behavior. There is innocence in the baby in precisely the same way that every single one of us is absolutely inherently innocent. The innocence of all of us is always there. It's always here. We are innocence. The innocence is touched, but then what's touched also, when we contact our own innocence, is where we are guilty and ashamed, where we don't allow our own innocence, where the phenomena of guilt and shame, and I don't mean where we're not okay, I really don't mean that, I mean where the energy of guilt and shame is restricting the truth of our own innocence. At least for me, when I look at a baby, and if I just contemplate on the word innocence, energetically I can feel the pollutions around that coming forward. I can feel, even before it's formed in words, the yes but. Yes but.
Are you saying that also is there? Because I'm not finding that when I'm in presence with them, what comes to me is the yes, but. There may be moments of that. But so you're saying that also that is there? Or are you...
I'm saying that this is what can happen.
Oh, can, okay.
When we really open up to the innocence of a baby.
Then also the places that aren't innocent, I mean the shame and guilt also
the shame
show
and
up.
guilt which we are carrying over our inherent, constant, given innocence.
That they too can show up. They too can come forward. Okay.
It will come forward, not in the same moment, maybe it naturally comes after, no? This guilt and shame.
These places where we are not free. And there's not a judgment in this because, the baby too will grow up in society, into being with everybody else, and will take on its own lessons. But in real time, in the here and now, the places where we are not completely free within ourselves.
Maybe if you see such a pure thing with so much, after a few days, you realize that maybe you're not good enough for that. I think it's only almost natural.
For example.
Because I can only spoil. Maybe if it's
and this is a phenomenon, really, in people around babies. Some people really withdraw. Some people don't even want to come near a newborn baby because they carry this so strongly. If I hold this baby, I will damage it just by my energy.
This can also be very, very strong in fathers. And what is important to understand is that it's our shame, our feeling not good enough. It's so pure, a baby, and so innocent, and so strong at the same time. And so physically dependent also. It's all there. Is that these are our emotions and feelings. And the baby is absolutely unconditional. You know, the baby doesn't give a shit
The baby doesn't
about
judge.
shame. It doesn't give a shit about guilt. It doesn't judge. It really doesn't judge. It's absolutely unconditional. But what is the horrible thing is when we draw back as mothers, as fathers, when we disconnect, then the baby loses its anchor. It's really anchoring in the first place in the mother, in the second place in the father, in the third place in the world around it. So the moment we move out of connection, the baby loses its anchor. And the worst thing again is when the mother is moving out of connection. That means that in the basis, and this is happening more, that babies in a very young age losing their anchor is that they're able to keep it. And I'm very passionate about it because this is really the basis of feeling unsafe in this world. Not knowing what your direction is, not knowing that the whole issue around existence is based on these very, very early experiences in which authority is interfering. And what we give authority inside ourselves, shame has a bigger authority as love, guilt has a bigger authority as love, or authority interfering from the outside in the bonding between the mother and the child. It's almost a habit to disturb the togetherness between mother and child. If you have help in the house, it is possessiveness towards this togetherness. It is regulated, it has to be like this, in hospitals it's like this. There is something really, really, really off with this. Like this deep intimacy between mother and child needs to be disrupted.
And is that sort of like what you were talking about, like the light of the baby, like something about this bonding that is happening between mother and infant, this environment, this atmosphere that is being created, people want of it, they want to be in
Connected
it.
with the movement of possession.
We are all wounded in this. So it's almost unbearable to allow it for too long. We need to interfere in this. We're all wounded in it in a way. It's unbearable. You see that people, they need to do something, it's unbearable. Either to leave or what, or to have it for themselves, or to possess, or control. It seems to be unbearable. And if you just sit beside the mother with the child and just let it be, there's such a purity and beauty and holiness in it.
And when you talked about the guilt and innocence that you mentioned, and I was just thinking about my experience right now, and that is not a lot of what's coming up in this moment, but I'm actually associating it now with that it's the mothers really, or fathers, or something, that may not feel good enough, that may feel like they may contaminate, because I wasn't in that position. And so there can be a place where they're retreating. I mean, they're taking care of their infant, they're not necessarily abandoning the infant, but there is a place where inside themselves they're retreating inside, like, I don't want to contaminate, I love you, you're so amazing, but I don't want to give you whatever I don't think is good enough.
I'm not good enough. Yeah.
Which is quite often how we intuitively or habitually move with our whole environment. You know, if we're feeling love and joy, we expand it and we share it with everybody. If we're feeling absolutely terrible and in pain, the movement of expanding it with everybody is it's based on a very deep belief and a very deep wound that if we move openly with this, then we're going to hurt other people. So it's actually guilt-based.
Disturbing.
And not only that, if we move like this, we're disturbing other people, and if we move like this, we're too vulnerable and we get rejected and we're not part of. It's both sides. It's not only to hurt other people, but it's also to get hurt. It's incredibly unsafe to move with pain, we think, or we're programmed.
What actually happens if we allow the expansion of our pain into the social field, in the same way that we would allow the expansion of our love, is that people feel the authenticity of the energy and they respond by opening up. And they're not in pain, they're touched. It's like a song sung by Leonard Cohen, which is incredibly moving about the depth of his pain. For the listener, is beautiful. It's not, oh, he's put him off. For some people maybe with Leonard Cohen, but it's, in a deep sense, it's really not polluting other people with the agony. It's sharing the depth of, and the depth of is always beautiful, has beauty in it.
I don't know, I feel like Leonard Cohen was living with me. But
For ourselves, in the social area, the movement of holding the pain, energetically, of retracting it, of keeping it in, is also shutting off our own love towards our own pain and our own healing abilities. Our own attitude towards the pain contained in this holding it in is almost self-abusive. It's not an attitude of loving softness, hold the pain inside. It's
Like a baby.
yeah.
I'm already for 20 years passionate about giving this course and talking about childbirth, and as an outsider I cannot do it as beautiful and as truthful as Georgi does. She was inside the experience, but looking from the outside you see where it goes wrong. And there is two very important hormones in our system which are creating stress. This is adrenaline and cortisol.
can't hear you, sorry.
There's two very important hormones which are creating stress, or can create stress in our system when they're off, when they're too high. That's cortisol and adrenaline. And when they're off, they create all kind of imbalances in all the organs in the whole body. They're behind a lot of illnesses, they're behind a lot of survival behavior, they're behind a lot of stressful living as we do it, the feeling of unsafety, chronic diseases, autoimmune diseases. All of this is connected with this. And of course how we live is how we treat birth and how we treat women who have a newborn baby, how we treat labor, how we treat the start of life. It's just a reflection of it. But to be able to understand more deeply the impact of some of our behaviors already on the start of life and the impact on the life of a newborn baby is helpful. It's really, really, really helpful. And could make a big difference for humanity. And that's partly why I'm so passionate about this course, because it can make a difference. It's basically if there is a good start and something to move back to as a good start, the first couple of years. After that, it's so much more easy to work through things if shit hits the fan. If the start is really, really difficult, it is much more difficult.